The one main difficulty is the lack of context, because in China, in modern cities, everybody is trying to create a new town when there's nothing existing. Everything is starting from scratch. And that I find a very difficult starting point for meaningful architecture to take place. So the best we could do is try to understand what it would be like in the future, and how the architecture that we are creating could help to shape that future. But in China, in those scenarios, you might have to start something, and hopefully you create a scenario where others might later chime in and fit in. And together, hopefully, you could create a place, a neighborhood. There are always elements from the past that could start, could be the beginning of your architectural idea. And then you transform it into special, spatial, and formal composition, which makes sense functionally. It's a resolution of use and function to become a truly workable and relevant work of architecture for present use. And from that, you derive your identity. So that's how this cultural identity can come about. So if it is just an object that will give you this shape, and that's it, then it will be meaningless. But if that object gives you a hint as to how you could compose a certain spatial program to meet the needs of that program, then it would be useful. And if in the process, that shape gives you a connection between the history of the place, or the culture of the place, and the end product, that would be even better. Space. How we perceive space back in the old days in China is very special. Space is used to organize family structures. A family is divided into seniority, first wife, second wife, cousins, the social order, organized by spatial composition of a dwelling. Another use of space is psychological. You line up sequences of courtyards and buildings in order of importance. It prepares your mood so that you have a sense of anticipation and awe as you go, for instance, from the entrance to a palace through the different space courtyards before you really go to meet, the superior. So it's used as a means to condition your mental reaction, blurring the boundary between exterior and interior, as in many Chinese gardens, where it's put in many layers, and the layering goes partly into the building. So you have an illusion always of being on the outside when you're inside, and of being on the inside when you're on the outside. So this blurring of rigid boundary between outside and inside is also a clever use of space. So these are the things that we could reuse spatially in today's different types of buildings to achieve different purposes. But it originates from the past. And maybe that makes it Chinese. The third culture is about community. Architecture in the past has always been used to provide a sense of community, like our wall villages, like our Tulao, you may have heard of it, this round building for protection, for introverted living, and for creating a sense of the clan or the village, and everybody of the same surname could live under a protected enclosure. The use of buildings and the use of space of the appropriate scale and ambience to create a sense of community is something which is very often required in, again, today's different building types. So I think these are lessons from the past that we could learn and apply to contemporary building types and contemporary functions, contemporary needs, and contemporary mentality. Especially in cities like Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai. One big culture is that of density. I mean, historically, we are living in the densest environments that human has ever experienced. If it is handled well, if it tempers density with environmental sensitivity, and really taking care of both issues like ventilation and privacy and noise and all that, and still have an optimum density, it actually would give the city a sort of dynamic interaction, convenience, accessibility. But the density also requires architects to think of new solutions to building types. And coupled to this density is this culture of connectivity. Density will not work unless there's an integrated connectivity within the city, i.e. that buildings do not stand alone and there is no distinct demarcation or rigid boundary between the public realm and the private realm. So architecture becomes a tool through which we connect the city both visually and spatially. A city which is conveniently accessed, which also means that you'll be encouraged, hopefully, to rely less on cars, which in turn means it is a green feature.